Hello everyone. Today we will be going over the first of our two-part series on This and That games. We will talk about different types of This or That games, how to build one on Metaspark, how you can integrate a This or That game in an event or project you're already working on, and tips or tricks to work in more complex networks. On this first video, we will go over a simple This and That game, where as you can see, you get the same card result no matter what you choose. And the next one, we'll do a more complex game in which the result changes depending on what you choose. So let's get started. Before we start, I want to talk to you a little bit about how to use our This or That effect within your event creation pipeline. Like, how would you integrate this into what you usually do with Touch Designer and other interactive tools? So think about This or That effects as two possibilities. One is what I like to call the social validation one, and the other one is what I like to call computer validation one. The social validation one is very similar to what we see here. You have one enter question. In this case, 5 different options with 10 options per question, and one answer that at the end shows up for everybody. This is great before an event, for example, to create an awareness of what's going to happen on the event, to make people feel excited about the event. And usually social validation effects are used to create viral moments, you know? So it's not about giving you an answer, but it's about you revealing something about you with your peers, with your social media network, and creating a conversation about things you find interesting. The other type of effects, it's what I call the computer vision validation effect. In this case, we're actually taking the information that you give me, and I'm giving you a different answer depending of what you choose. In this case, it's dog or cat, but imagine an event where you have multiple venues or you have different platforms where someone could choose where to go during a day. You could make a set of options of being like, hey, what should you watch today? Should you watch the panels or should you go to the gallery? And so something like a This or That effect on this type of effect would be amazing. And this is actually what we're going to be working on next week. The other type that we won't touch in this series, but it's super interesting as well, is when you're talking about like the 3 types of effects. So in this case, you're even going even a level deeper, and you are actually giving people different options depending on what they choose, and like creating a completely different path depending on what you choose. So for this tutorial today, we're going to start doing the regular This or That effect with one single card. And then next week, we'll move to the 2-option This or That effect. But just wanted to get that out of the way so you know how can you integrate this in what you usually do. So let's get started. So as usually, I come here to a Metaspark Studio, creating a sharing effect, meaning it's going to be used on Instagram and Facebook. And I want to start by adding my assets. So I'm just going to import my assets from my computer. You already saw them. I showed you before. These are my assets. I made sure I created them 512 by 256. And I did that because I think that's a good size that allows me to have good enough resolution, but also won't make my effect too heavy. And now that I have my assets on the scene, the next thing that I want to do is that I want to add my face tracker, because this is a face tracking effect. I'm taking the head leaning to control, to decide whether you choose or not. And I want to add my placeholders where things are going to be on my face tracker. So I'm just going to create 3 planes and place them where I want them to be. And because I know that my images are in a 2:1 aspect ratio, I want to very quickly just make my scale match that. So when I add my images, they don't get a stretch out. And I'm going to add my materials for my 3 images. I have center, right, and left. And I'm using a flat material because I want my images to actually keep the colors that I decide for them. If I use a standard or a physical-based material, they're going to cast shadows and they're going to look different. And so I'm assigning my materials to my cards. Center card, my center material. My right card, my right material. My left card, my left material. And so I have them here. The last thing that I want to add is I created this like little star to indicate when you choose something, like you turn your head, little star to show is in there. So I'm just going to add the car for that star, and the location, it will be where I want it to be. And so because I know this card, unlike these other ones that are 2-to-1, is square, I'm just going to change my scale to match that so it doesn't get a stretch when I add my star. I'm using the same type of material. It's a flat material. In this case, it's just going to have my select. And I'm actually going to use it on both stars at the same time. I'm just going to rotate them to make them feel differently, but I'm just using the same material. Makes my life easier. Okay, so I have my card. The last thing I want to do is that maybe I want to make this center card bigger for having like a hierarchy sense. I'm just going to make it actually 2 and 1 instead of 1 and 0.5. So that kind of looks cool. And so I have my assets added on my placeholder locations. So before I move forward into creating my interactivity, what I would like to do for both organization and because it makes my life easier once I'm creating my game is separate my assets between active state or game state, meaning we are playing the game, and non-game state, meaning I'm starting my effect or I finish my effect. I'm not interacting right now. This is just me either receiving information of how this is going to work or receiving a logo or receiving some information about the event. So I'm going to create 2 nulls, and one is going to be for my game state and the other one is going to be for my idle state. And I'm going to take all my assets that belong to my game state, meaning my left and right select, and everything that I use while I'm playing. So my right select. And I'm going to add in my idle state, my center card, which is the card that I use at the end. And of course, making sure my idles are inside my face tracker. Sorry, my nulls are inside my face tracker. Okay, there it is. So for example, I take game state and I turn it off right now. This is how it's going to look when I start. If I, on the other hand, turn off my idle state, this is what it's going to look while I'm playing. So this looks fine. I am happy with my layout and how things are looking on the scale. So I'm just going to move forward to create my interaction. So as usual, let's just come here and like open our patch editor. And here we are, we have our patch editor. So there's 2 things I want to do. I want to create two main interactions for my user. The first one is I want my user to be able to start the game whenever they are ready. Like I don't want them to, as soon as they open the effect, they have to choose and be like, oh, left, right, what's going on? Because you want to give your users time to like know what's going on. There's multiple ways that we could do that. We could use on record. So while they are not recording, they are seeing the information. And once they start recording, the game is start. But I want to use on a tap. So meaning when the user taps, that's where the game starts. So to do that, I'm just going to add a tap event and a screen tap event. And as you know, I have here my gesture state, meaning is tap or no tap. And what I want to do is that I just want to have make my game state visible after the tap and my idle state invisible after the tap. Let's turn this on both for now so we can see what's going on. So I'm just going to come here, take my little arrow to the left, meaning that it's going to come into my patch editor. And if I try to connect these in here on my gesture state immediately, I have a switch. And in this case, if I use the switch, what's going to happen as it is right now, if I keep it on flip, I'm going to come here to my 3 dots, simulate touch, is that it's going to go on, off, on, off. And that's not what I want. I actually want it to stay in the state. Like once I click once, I want it to stay on. So I'm going to change this screen tap from flip to turn on. So it only happens once now. So no matter how many times I click, only the first time that I click or the first time that I tap my screen is going to work. And the other thing that I want to do is the same thing, do the same thing with my game state. So the big difference though is that I want my auto state to disappear when I click, and I want my game state to appear when I click. So I'm just going to connect this in here. And between idle and my switch, what I'm going to add is a node. This node is like a negate or a 1- in rule. It's something that just flips your signal to the opposite. So in this case, I'm just negating my signal. So this is on is turning off, and when it's off is turning on. So like that. Now that this is off, this is on, and now that it's on is off. So that's the first part. The second thing that I want to do is, of course, I want to be able to use my face tracker to detect left and right and what's going on. And to make that happen, I am going to take my face tracker, drop it here on my patch editor. And in the moment I have my face tracker, it comes here with this general set of nodes as it usually does. I have 3D position and 3D rotation, but using these nodes directly can be really, really challenging. So actually, if I just come here on face, I can get something very cool. If I come into interactions, I can find my head rotation node. And this head rotation node has already defined the regular head rotation moves. So I can take the left turn, the right turn, the left lean, the right lean, the forward and the backward. I'm going to add this. And the two things that I want to use actually is my right lean and my left lean. Those are the two options that I want to read at any time. So I'm just going to create an OR here telling me, hey, so either you take a left lean or a right lean, please let me know. Those are the two things that I'm looking at. Those are the two things that I want to follow. And the other thing that I want to do, because I want my game only to start after I tap, I wanted to tell it, if I've hidden the tap, if I'm switching, if this is already on, then it starts counting, this left and right. So I'm just going to create an operation. I'm just going to be like, hey, so I want to hear my left lean and my right lean, and if this thing is also happening. So these two things have to happen for you to start counting, to start saying, okay, you did it left, you did it right, you did it left, you did it right. And the next thing I want to do is that I want to create my counter. And here that I have my counter, it create a pulse between those two. That's totally fine. What's going to happen is that every time there's a left leaning or a right leaning, is going to count only if I already tap the screen. So let me add a value here so we can check that out, so we can know that it's real what I'm saying and it's actually happening. So right now, if this person does like left or right, nothing is going to happen because I haven't tapped. But if I tap, it immediately starts counting the left and the leaning. And if you notice, this value is going to start increasing every time they move left and right. So let's do one more. There it is. Okay, so now that I have that, what I want to do basically, because this is a same result, no matter what you choose game, basically what I need to do is I only need to change the cards every time you lean your head one side or the other. It's nothing else. Like there's nothing crazy about this. So what I'm going to do right now is that I'm going to take my materials, and what I'm going to do is that I'm going to select my texture in here. So if you lean one, I want to see this texture. When you lean twice, I want to see this texture. When you lean a third time, this is what I want to see. So we're just going to add an option picker that is going to allow us to select, depending of number, like option 1, 2, 3, what we wanted to have. When I create my option picker, it comes like this. It is usually by default created by selecting numbers. I'm going to change this to actually include a texture. And now I'm just going to select my textures. When I created my textures, I named them. So A is what I want it to be on the left side. B is what I want it to be on the right side. And there are mixed. Some of the things that are on the left would belong to cat person answers. Some of the things that are on the right would belong to dog person answers. This is just me making an example, but like if you were making an actual effect for an event, you would create these variables based on whatever actually are the two things. So in this case, to 8, 3A, 4A, and 5A. And here they are my textures. And I'm gonna replicate the exact same thing for the other side. I'm just gonna drop it in here. And again, 2B, 1B, 2B. So now, if you notice, you can see here what option is being selected. So right now will be the 4, and then will be the 5th. If I come here to my material, and again, I take my little arrow next to texture, this is my left material. So I'm just gonna put it on my A side, I think. And then I'm gonna take my right material and I'm gonna put it on my right side. And if I tap in here and the counter starts, you're gonna notice that as soon as it moves left, okay, it changes. That's 1, that's 2, and then it moves forward 3, 4, 5. I'm gonna change for a moment to show you something that it's important for us to know. So right now I'm here, and if I keep going, it's gonna loop. You see, like it went from 1 to 3 to 5, and then again 1 to. The problem with that, or the reason why I don't want this to happen, is because I want my game to end on the final one. And how do I stop this for like looping? I'm just gonna come here on my counter, and the maximum count, I'm just gonna make 200. So it's always gonna add till 200, but there's no 200 in here. So it's gonna end on the last option, which will be actually 4, which is my 5th, because option 0 is texture 1. Okay, so we got this. The last thing I want to do on this like kind of fun thing, moving left and right, is adding my stars, isn't it? Like I want my stars to show up whenever I move left or I move right. So let's do that. So we have these leanings in here. And in this case, unlike this previous case in which I don't care whether it's left or right, I do care whether it's left or right. I do need to select only the specific left or right option. So that's a thing. But the other thing is this number is going up to 200. And maybe what I want to do, I don't want these stars to show up until 200. I just want it to show during the first 5 options of the game. So I want to create less than. So if we're talking about less than 5, like if the number of options is less than 5, that's the only moment when I want to show my stars. And in this case, for example, this is the right lean state. So if it's less than 5, sorry, and I almost used the wrong one, and I'm leaning right, then in that case, I want you to show my card. So if I come in here, I can take my right select. This is the right side, isn't it? Just to confirm. Yes, I can take my right select and take visibility and build it in here. So if I put this in here, right now it's going to show only for that very specific second where I am actually in that state. So let me show you very quickly. Again, I'm going to change the split cam so you can see. So it is a very specific moment. Let me go reset. If I am not, it's not showing up, which is not what I want. I want it to show and stay there for as long as I need. Like if it's only when I'm here, it's not precisely looking good, because if a person does like a very quick movement, we won't notice it. So what I'm going to do to fix that is that I'm going to, instead of having this going directly into my visible, I'm going to create a switch. And that what switch allows me to do is allows me to, of course, turn on when these conditions are met. That's totally fine. But don't turn off immediately. I want you to have a little delay here. And I want to have a delay of 1 second. And once that second passes, please turn this off. So what's going to happen is that it's going to turn on when the conditions are met. And then after a second, it's going to turn off. So it's going to give me a more like something that is going to feel more natural, more like, okay, I get it. I did something happened, and I got a response. So let's see. Boop, it turned on for a second, and then it disappeared. Perfect. I'm going to replicate that for the other side using the left lean. So now that I have this, a thing that I am so, like, even though it's working with my star, something that I don't like is that the text changes sort of too fast. It's kind of hard to know what's going on. And for those of you who work on interaction design, you've known about this before. Usually there's a little delay, like you cannot give, it's an art to decide when to give feedback. If it happens too fast, it almost feels like it happened coincidentally. If it happens too slow, it feels like you actually didn't have any influence. So there needs to be this very slight delay. On this case, what I want to do is that I want to add that delay to make sure my user knows, oh, I caught your answer. Oh, let me give you a response. And I'm going to add it here between these ads. So before it starts, not this one, before it starts adding, I want to make sure that it takes a little second holding the previous frame, holding the previous card before I add anything else. So I'm just going to come in here, add my delay. And so the same thing, I want to make this delay very slightly, 1 second. And let's see how this feels. Well, let's restart this. And let's see how it feels now. Better. So it takes a little bit before it changes. Now that I have that, the last thing I want to do on this area of sweeping things and making things visible and invisible is actually, I have my last card. So my first card is, hello, welcome to the game. And the last card is, thank you. So the same thing that I did in here, I'm going to do with my center card. But instead of having 5 options, I just want to have 1. And usually when we create the option picker, it has by default 5 options. But if you come here to this configuration button, you can select the number of inputs. I just want to have 2. And I'm going to select my number 1 is this or that. And my number 2 is the end. And I can just do the exact same thing that I've done with everything. Take my material and tell it, hey, read this or read the other. And just like that, in the moment it changes, because I only see this card before the game starts and I see it again when the game ends. It doesn't matter because I'm never going to see it change before tap. So I just have to plug it. I don't have to do anything else. However, as cool as that is, how do I get back that card? This is the first, the way we have it right now. What I want to make sure is that I want to build now, after 5 rounds, can we get back to the game state card? So let's just build that very quickly. So in this case, what I want to do is that I want to take this value again, and I want to do greater or equal. So when I've played either 4 times or already 4 times, like if my count is 4 or bigger than 4, I want to actually just change it to greater. So let's do that very quickly. So what I want to do now is that I come in here, I want to take my greater than, and I just want to make it 4 because it's the number of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 is 5. And what I want to do in this case is okay, so just let's build that. So I'm going to take my greater than, and I want to select 5 in here. Let's put it greater than 5. Because even though I have 0, 4, 5, 0, 1, 2, 3, 5, 0, it's 1 tap, 2, 1, 2 taps, 2, 3, 3 taps. Anyway, so let's try with 5. If not, we can change it to 4. I think it's 5. Anyway, so what I want to do is once this has reached 5, I want to take this knot. So the 2 options are this reach 5 or the knot is not happening. In that case, I want you to show me that. So, or I can plug this in here. So now, because it is more than 5, it showed again. So it disappears when it's been less than 5 head turns, and let me go back to use myself to see this quickly. Boop, boop. 4, 5. And now what I want to do is that I want to use this same information, just like I did earlier, to turn on this game state. So what I want to do in this case is that I want to take all this information that I already have from this and make a switch. So it's so simple. Instead of having to, let me get back to have this persona so you can see something. Instead of having to rebuild everything, I'm just going to say, hey, so when this is off, actually just turn this off. And when this is on, just turn this on. Simple as that. We don't need to do anything else. So let's do this again. Let's see. So now this is visible. Let me put myself so we can see quicker what's going on. Otherwise, we're going to take forever. There it is. Let's try it again. Oops, moving too fast. Okay, that's it. The last thing I want to do, and this is something, I'm going to add a little audio player. So we have something that also indicates that there's audio. So it's kind of cool and nice. The cool thing that we have is that it's basically using this exact same information that we have, these two booleans. So whenever you turn left and whenever you turn right, I actually don't care. But whenever those two things are happening, whenever you are seeing the stars, that's when I want to hear my audio. So what I'm going to do right now is that I'm going to take these two variables. And I'm going to say either the one or the other. I'm okay. I don't care which one. So this one or this other one. Whenever you hear those two, please, let's just get a pulse so we can get the audio player. You know what I mean? I just want to know that you heard them. Thank you so much for letting me know. And then I just want to add an audio player. And remember that to use an audio player, we have to create a single clip controller. And I'm just going to say, hey, whenever this is turned on, play, the audio that I want to play is my success audio here. My bad. Oh my God. Success audio, add it in here. And then I just want to create my speaker very quickly. And then if I come here on audio, I can select this one. So you see? Let's start again. So if I click, and let me put my face somewhere so we can see me easier. If I click here to start, here it sounds. There it sounds. Here it sounds. And because the value is bigger than, oh, look, this one is unplugged. That's why. The value is bigger than 5, it won't count. This one, it is unplugged. Let's plug that here. I don't know when that happened. Maybe it never was plugged. But that's an important thing, making sure that there's the moment of end state. So that's basically what it is for this tutorial. Let me put it in here. So the next week, we'll be creating a similar effect. But in this case, our effect will have a different result depending on what options you choose during the process. So that's it for now. Leave a comment if you have any questions, if there's anything else you would like to see. And thank you. Hope you enjoyed this.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you're serious about taking your touch designer and interactive skills to the next level, I highly recommend you check out the Interactive and Immersive HQ Pro. It's the only educational resource and community of its kind for touch designer and interactive professionals. You can learn more by checking out the link in the description. And if you like this video, don't forget to hit that like button. And if you're new here, don't forget to hit subscribe and the little bell icon for more awesome free content.